Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Lexus IS car. Lexus is a brand that is famous for its very high quality of workmanship and reliability, but also for its extremely expensive service. We check how this relates to the used second-generation Lexus IS, which can be an alternative to European premium cars. Lexus and Infiniti are the only premium brands from Japan that have broken into the European market. Lexus is definitely stronger, offering cars tailored, at least in part, to European tastes for a long time now. The first generation of the IS was treated with a pinch of salt, a bit like a Japanese BMW knockoff, because it had rear-wheel drive. However, it caught on quite well, and today younger users are happy to look at this model before buying a used car. Meanwhile, prices of the second generation have also dropped quite significantly, which is why interest in it is growing. Engines. It certainly wasn't cheap in the showrooms, because the high excise tax rate on engines larger than 2.0 drives up the price. The smallest in the range is the Toyota 2.2 D4D diesel, which generates 150 or 177 HP. It is the only one with 4 cylinders. The V6 petrol engines have a capacity of 2.5 liters, is 250 and 208 HP, or 3.5 liters, is 350 and 310 HP. The largest and most powerful is the Lexus IS F with a 5-liter V8 engine with 423 HP. Which engine to choose? Without a doubt, the 2.5-liter petrol in the V6 system. This is the only engine that you shouldn't be afraid of. It doesn't have typical faults, and we know that it works very well. Of course, you can't count on low fuel consumption, because it easily exceeds 10 100 kilometers, especially when it is tuned with an automatic gearbox. We do not recommend a manual transmission, because it is poorly stepped, too large gaps between gears, and is noisy and not resistant to quick gear changes. Unfortunately, direct petrol injection rather rules out the installation of a gas system. A diesel engine would be a great alternative, but it is not particularly successful. Burning of the head gasket, settling of the cylinder liners, deformation of the block, a huge risk of overheating, and quite unreliable equipment are all discouraging, and for this reason we do not recommend this engine. Of course, it is difficult to assess it well due to its scale, but one can still get the impression that the equipment in Lexuses is better than in Toyotas. It is important that up to about 200,000 kilometers this engine runs relatively trouble-free and is the most economical in the range. 6-8 100 kilometers, but the risk is high. A properly treated engine, mainly driving on the road, can travel up to 250,000 kilometers before a serious failure. Now the good news. This engine was improved in 2010, and the 177 horsepower version was supplemented with 150 horsepower. The latter in Lexus, marked as COVALENTI 1S200D, can be recommended with a clear conscience. It does not cause problems, but you cannot have full trust either. 6 years is a bit too short to form an opinion. Unfortunately, we will not comment on the 3.5 or 5.0 unit. There are few such cars, and you cannot base your assessment on individual opinions. The IS 350 most often comes from the American market, and interestingly, it is easier to buy an IS F with a V8 under the hood. We assume, based on opinions from other models, that the 3.5-liter unit is problem-free, and since Lexus used it to work with an electric engine in a hybrid drive, we can also suspect that it can easily withstand city use. Of course, you should expect high fuel consumption. The service costs of a 5-liter are certainly horrendous. What's broken? The ideal image created by the Lexus LS does not quite fit other models. They are not completely failure-free, although failures requiring a mechanic's intervention are rare. On the other hand, the prices of service and parts are much higher than popular German designs. Users usually complain about trifles, such as creaking upholstery, chips on thin paintwork, no corrosion, or problems with xenon headlights for facelifts. Electrics break down less often, but the car's rich equipment, including ventilated and electrically adjustable seats, active cruise control, high-end audio, sometimes fails to work. If it concerns the traction control system or ABS, then usually one of the wheel sensors is to blame. It is worth knowing that the warning light for the traction control error can even mean that the engine is not working properly. It is the same in Toyotas. The chassis is exceptionally durable, usually requiring no service for 200,000 kilometers. Even the steering rack stands the test of time on European roads. The only drawbacks are the wheel bearings wearing out quite early and the brake calipers seized, improper service. The biggest drawback of the model is the manual gearbox, which we have already mentioned. It is not comfortable, and the costs of eliminating the noise will certainly be high. It is worth buying the version with an automatic. Operating costs, prices and availability of spare parts. Unfortunately, operating costs are high, higher than in the case of German cars, provided that we are talking about faultless models. The risk of failure is lower, but parts are expensive, very expensive or terribly expensive. The low popularity of the model did not lead to the development of the offer of substitutes, so less affluent owners often save themselves with used parts. You can't count on popular wholesalers. The advantage of 2.2 diesels is the availability of most parts for repairs, unlike petrol engines. Each of the engines uses a durable, chain timing drive. The risk of car theft is very high, so it is worth buying at least insurance against this, so-called mini AC. However, we recommend full auto insurance due to the high costs of post-collision repairs. Looking at the car through the eyes of a typical Pole who buys a premium class that he can't afford to transport his family, then it's definitely not. The Lexus IS II is a sedan for two people who don't need a large trunk, but expect luxury, good quality of driving and dynamics. It is not exactly a competitor to Audi, BMW, Mercedes, nor to Honda, Mazda and Toyota. It should not be treated as a fully fledged middle class. If you understand this and buy this expensive to maintain model with full awareness of what it is, you can only be satisfied. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.
I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro.